I think for me, success just means like being able to wake up every day and just work on music, like wherever I'm at, just being able to like wake up, work on something really fire. And yeah, and like especially if something isn't working out that day, like knowing that I don't need to make something happen to survive or to sustain myself. Just being comfortable making music as like a career, pretty much, that would be success. My friend Willie, who had been keeping up with my music since me and Wiley from Atlanta dropped Blue Don't Make Me Cry, and basically like him and I just built a relationship. We started sending music back and forth, and he heard some of my older like death metal, trap metal, like dark hip hop stuff. So basically like I just sent him a bunch of stuff. He asked me for a few stuff for specific artists, and that led to my first placement. I have a ton of unreleased music that I want to put out. Stuff that I've been working on for years, like music with Jared Milton. Him and I had been working on a really crazy album that will eventually see release either this year or next year. So we just want to finish up mixing and getting that record ready. And then other than that, just some stuff that I can't really talk about, but I got kind of loaded up and ready to go. Super excited for that. A lot of soundtracking and film work, and then also just making albums with my friends, trying to make really good music. But I guess like my main goal is like I want a studio. That's it. I just want a studio to work out of. Yeah, that would let me like do anything at any hour of the day. Also just having a place to like go to. That's like the zone that I'm gonna be in when I work on music. Like I couldn't think of anything better, just to walk into a building and know like I'm gonna make music here and that's what we're gonna do, and then I'm gonna leave, you know? Hey, what's up? I'm Oliver Blue. I'm a producer from Atlanta. Spin really gave me 3 random sounds today, so I'm gonna basically take them, flip them, do what I do with them, and show y'all how I do it. So we've got 3 different sounds. I got them emailed to me last night, so we'll take a look at the first one. It looks like it's Intruder Alert. All right, the second one is Electrical Sweep. Cool. Third one is UFO Takeoff Sound. So it looks like we're going space themed, I guess. Yeah, so I guess I could just go ahead and get going on it. I think that's probably the best thing to start with, this sound. Well, the techniques that I like to use are inspired by sampling a lot, like old school samplers. So in the early 90s, late 90s, they used like the SP1200 from EMU Systems and like the MPC 60, which are kind of like sample boxes. And those techniques all pretty much relied on like you plugging a sound into the box, pressing a button, and a sound comes out. So it's like all the techniques that I really like to use are filtered through the lens of a sampler. So what I'm gonna do is basically like do all that, but on my Ableton instead of through a sampler. I do have a sampler here that I might end up using, but that's basically like kind of how I'll be making my decisions here. So the first thing that I'll do is take this electrical sweep, and the end of it sounds pretty good to me. So I'm gonna take a delay, and I like to use a lot of effects on everything I do. So I'm gonna take a delay, see if I can just make it sound spacey. And to me, it's kind of about taking sounds and making them fit in one world together. So basically that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna apply a ton of effects. I just put a filter on here, so that's gonna take out a lot of the like the detail on the high end. And my goal here is really just to probably make like some sort of atmosphere for everything else to sit in. So in my experience in hip hop, especially, like everyone always tells me like the drums have got to knock, like that's what matters. So I always look at it like the drums have got to knock, there's got to be a fire bass line, and then something else going on in the background. But that to me is like the core of a beat. And then after that, doesn't really matter what you do, but everything else is just like a little bit of decoration on top. So that's how I'm gonna build my background. I'm basically gonna resample that. So I'm gonna take the audio and I'm gonna record it again without, well, it's gonna basically like bake all the effects in. All right, so now I've got a loop of like that spacey sound. And that to me kind of sounds like some background atmosphere that I can put in. So I'll put an LFO on here. I'm gonna map it to the frequency. And so I'm gonna put that to the beat. The next thing I need to do is kind of figure out how I'm gonna use some of the other sounds. So let's say this UFO takeoff. All right. I think I'm gonna use that as like a rhythmic ender to the phrases. So we'll see if we can kind of sample it in here and create some sort of rhythmic loop. So you can kind of hear how that like ends the phrase and then leads you back into the beginning of the loop. And I didn't really do anything here. I'm probably gonna put a little filter on it, make it fit a bit more. So I think what I wanna do next is like, I'm gonna use my piano behind me. I don't know if y'all can see that over there, but it's an old school piano from the 70s that I got. I'm gonna plug it into my sampler and record it. I'm gonna put an effect on it called Vinyl Simulator. It's on the SP404 sampler that I use. And it basically like, it makes it sound like an old record, whatever you're playing through it. So I'm just gonna play along with it, see if I can find anything I like for a minute. Yeah, so this is pretty much my setup. I have everything linked up through an interface. You can kind of see some guitars behind me and stuff, and I have a synthesizer that's kind of out of frame. It is my setup. I really like the idea of having my instruments like separate from my computer. Like for me, those are like my holy grail items. So then once I'm like ready to record or anything like that, I can just turn it on, mess around with some settings and get a really good sound out of it. Like I played guitar since I was like 4, and ever since then just been kind of collecting stuff and like looking at a lot of different artists that I like, especially when I was way younger and like playing their music, learning all of it and stuff. But I ended up like, when I was 18 and I decided I wanted to follow like computer-based production, I was looking at videos by like Bellion, who makes like these really incredible studio videos where he shows his whole process. And I ended up just like getting, I guess, inspired by some of the stuff that I saw on YouTube as to like how to take real instruments and the things that I like to do. You know, I take a lot of those influences and then I pull them forward to this stuff. And then I've loved hip hop since like, I was a little bit older when I came into hip hop, probably about like 18 or so, before I really started appreciating it. But after that, like all those influences then came back. All that together kind of led me towards this type of sound. So yeah, that's what we got from the Rhodes there. All right, so to me, like that sounds like a full composition of a sample. So at that point, and I think I'm gonna pull in the last sound a little bit later, but I'm gonna put drums and bass on this now. So I have my electric bass here. And the cool thing about live recording with Ableton is like it's so easy like that. Like I don't have to press a single button apart from record, and like it'll be there. It'll sound great. So now it's time for me to kind of pull out the drums. And for me, this is where a record really comes together. So I'm gonna go ahead and like choose through some of the sounds I have. I really like samples from Just Blaze. he kind of has that old school, not too old school, I mean early 2000s, but a lot of that like MPC lo-fi sound. So I'm gonna pick some kicks and snares from there. And typically for me, like at least with the style that I like to work with, you don't need all that many drums, like just a hi-hat, a snare, and a kick, and like all of those working together add up into a nice groove. All right, so I have the kick here, I'm gonna turn it up. This is an Ableton push. It's basically, it works in tandem with Ableton. It kind of emulates some of the workflow of like older samplers and stuff. Basically, like I can load in my drum sounds, I can sequence them on here. It's basically just a huge pad with like 64 buttons. And if I really wanted to, I could actually close my laptop and not click around. I could just use this 100%, which is a lot of fun, but that leads you down a more like restricted workflow. But what I like to use it for is it's like super sensitive, so I can tap my drums in and like it picks up every piece of my swing and like the velocity, like how hard I hit it, it all translates over into the recording. So we'll probably hear some of that. So I like those kick and snares. I'm gonna get a hi-hat in, just something like kind of thin and something that can just sit on top. For that, I think I'm gonna look for a producer called Stolen Drums. He's got a lot of great sounds. I just bought Slappy Drums 3. So that's where I'm gonna pick this from. I like these. All right. That's a little bit loud. I think I like that. I do want the kick more loud, so I'm gonna just turn that up a bit. I'm gonna turn the metronome on. I'm just gonna record this. I think I got it there. I'm gonna put a plugin called the Goodhertz Volt Compressor on it. And what that does, it's basically a compressor that like emulates the sound of those old school samplers. So it kind of dirties stuff up. It really allows you to get that old school sound going. And there's actually a preset there called 1200 Crunch, which is emulating the kind of lo-fi sound of the SP1200 sampler. And then the last sound is this intruder alert. So to make that work with this is gonna be fun. So I just turned it down, I pitched it up like five semitones, and I think I wanna put like a reverb on it. Just soften up some of the sound a little bit. And that's just gonna sit in the background and give it a constant kind of flow. I might actually match the tempo here to the beat. It's kind of on already, honestly. Then I think the last thing I want to do is see if I could throw some acoustic guitar in here. So I have this old like classical Spanish thing. All right, so I'm gonna put on headphones and mute it for a second and record this guitar in so that it doesn't like catch all the rest of the sounds. And I'm gonna record it through that same vinyl simulator sample or like effect. I'm just gonna press record here, and I got the beat looping in my ear. All right. So I'm basically just gonna extend the length of this loop now, because that guitar part was double the length of the loop. I'm gonna put some delays on this guitar. I use a lot of echoes and reverbs and stuff. Like, to me, that's just what gives stuff a lot of space and makes it interesting, kind of feel alive. Just put a little play reverb on here. So I don't really like sending out beat packs. The pandemic has kind of made that necessary, but I actually like really prefer to work with artists like in the studio, us actually like constructing the song together, because then like they have a say in every single aspect of it, whether like they like the kick or not. When I come up with it, like you can change it right there. But the other thing is, like, I do like certain aspects of the sending packs thing, like Madlib and Alchemist both are like really well known to like make just endless beats and put them on tapes, and then like people can choose that beat and work with it or not. So I do make stuff with people in mind, but more recently, just because I've been like really obsessed with Madlib and Alchemist, like more recently I've been thinking about just making beats that are just very me, and then, you know, people will choose them if they really like them. And that's actually, like, honestly, it's led to more placements and stuff than not when people hear the music that I made for myself, and they really like it and they think it's weird and they want to like throw their spin on it. That tends to be what people, like artists, really like, you know, be yourself, and people will mess with it, you know. I work pretty closely with a rapper named Wara. He's one of my best friends right now, and yeah, him and I would absolutely take this to the next level. Like, ideally, if I had all the opportunities in the world, I'd send this to Outkast in '97 or something. But right now, yeah, I'd send it to Wara probably immediately. I probably will end up sending this to Wara just so he can make something with it anyway. Hey, this is Oliver Blue. This is the beat that I've made with the 3 sounds that Spin really gave me.